फिजी के विषय में थोड़ा कुछ बोल दूं आप लोगों को, ये जरूरी है जानना। हम कैसे गए हैं वहाँ, कब गए? 1869 में पहला जहाज लेकर यहाँ से हमारे पूर्वजों को फिजी पहुँचे। उस समय भारतवर्ष ब्रिटिश राज के नीचे था और फिजी द्वीप में कुछ मजदूरों की ज़रूरत थी। अंग्रेज़ों का प्लांटेशन था वहाँ, उनको मजदूरों की ज़रूरत थी, चीप लेबर की ज़रूरत थी। और उस समय इंडेंचर सिस्टम यहाँ भारत की सरकार, ब्रिटिश इंडिया की सरकार लागू कर चुका था और उसी प्रथा के नीचे हमारे पूर्वज वहाँ गए और अंडर सेमी स्लेवरी कंडीशंस उनको वहाँ प्लांटेशंस में काम करने के लिए रखा गया। लगभग 65,000 लोग गए बिटवीन 1869 एंड 1916। 1916 में ऑफिशियली वो जो प्रथा थी जिसको हम गिरमिट प्रथा कहते हैं उसको खत्म किया गया और उस बीच में 65,000 हमारे पूर्वज वहाँ गए और हम उन्हीं के संतान हैं। अधिकांश में वे गन्ने की खेती में उनको लगाया गया और गन्ने की जो खेती थी दैट वाज द मेन स्टे ऑफ द इकोनॉमी ऑफ फिजी। उसी पर फिजी की आर्थिक स्थिति निर्भर थी। दैट वाज द मेन इंडस्ट्री एंड इट वाज द मेन इंडस्ट्री, द मेन स्टे ऑफ द इकोनॉमी फॉर ऑलमोस्ट अ सेंचुरी। और मेरे जो ग्रैंडफादर थे श्री रामनाथ चौधरी, वो वहाँ गए और मेरी जो आजी थी उनके साथ, और वहाँ पर 2 पीरियड्स होते थे इंडेंचर का। 5-5 साल का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट होता था। 5 साल आप कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करें तो फिर आप उसमें से निकल सकते थे, लेकिन फिर सरकार आपका भाड़ा वापस भारत भेजने के लिए नहीं भरेगी, वो आपको खोजना पड़ेगा। अगर जो आप 10 साल पूरा करते हैं देन यू रिटर्न टू इंडिया एट गवर्नमेंट एक्सपेंस। तो मेरे दादाजी ने देखा 5 साल उन्होंने किया, ही गॉट आउट, बाहर चले आए उससे और कुछ वहाँ पर ज़मीन लेकर अपनी खेती वगैरह किए और कुछ दिन वहाँ से फिर व्यापार में थे, फिर वहाँ से भारत वापस लौट गए। उस समय मेरे पिताजी छोटे थे, लगभग 7-8 वर्ष के थे। वहाँ आकर के यहाँ फिर रोहतक में उन्होंने अपना घर द्वार बनाया और मेरे पिताजी यहाँ पर गुरपुर स्कूल में पढ़े, एजुकेशन लेकर के फिर वापस फिजी लौट गए। वहाँ उनका बड़ा भाई था, वो नहीं लौट के आए थे मेरे राजा जी के साथ। तो इस तरह से हम वहाँ हैं और इसी तरह से कई सारे परिवार, जो 65,000 लोग गए थे उनके परिवार वहाँ पर बसे हुए। 1970 में फिजी को आज़ादी मिली ब्रिटिश और अब आज 54 वर्ष हो गए हैं और इस बीच पॉलिटिकल डेवलपमेंट्स बहुत हुए। पहले 17 वर्ष था चुनाव के आज़ादी के बाद, 17 ईयर्स आफ्टर इंडिपेंडेंस, तो पहला कू हुआ। ये पहला कू हुआ जहाँ की हमारी सरकार थी, लेबर पार्टी का मैं अध्यक्ष हूँ। लोगों ने लेबर पार्टी का निर्माण किया था 1985 में और वो पार्टी चुनाव जीती थी। 1987 में सरकार बनाया हमने और सिर्फ एक ही महीना में उस सरकार को पद से हटा दिया गया था मिलिट्री कू द्वारा। उस समय मेजर जनरल रंबूका ने कू किया था और उसके बाद 5 वर्षों तक हमारा संघर्ष था कि फिर से हम डेमोक्रेसी पे लौटे और कई मुसीबतों का सामना करना पड़ा भारत से मूल के लोगों के लिए। बहुत सारे डिस्क्रिमिनेशन था, मिलिट्री रूल था, हर तरह से हमारे ऊपर निगरानी रखी जाती थी और इंटरनेशनल प्रेशर के बाद बहुत सारे संग्राम रचे, तब जा कर के फिर एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बना और उसके नीचे इलेक्शन वगैरह हुआ लेकिन वो जो संविधान बना था, इट वॉज नॉट अ डेमोक्रेटिक कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन। उसके नीचे भारतीय मूल के लोगों को परमानेंट ऑपोजिशन में डाल दिया गया था। Although they were numerically more than the natives, they were still under the constitution given only 27 seats in parliament, as opposed to the natives who were given 37 seats. So the Indians were reduced virtually to permanent opposition. We had to struggle against this constitution again, and internationally and all that. And after a long time, 7 years later, we had a negotiated constitution. दो पार्टियां मिलकर एक नेगोशिएटेड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का निर्माण हुआ, और उसके नीचे फिर 1999 में चुनाव हुआ। उस चुनाव को फिर हम जीते। लेबर पार्टी was victorious in that election, and I became Prime Minister with a very huge mandate, because it was a coalition of a number of parties, but the Labour Party itself had the majority to rule on its own. Nonetheless, we invited other parties to join us so that we would have a representative government. And this government lasted for 1 year. Then again, there was a coup. Although they claimed it was a civilian coup, it was not. Actually, it was no civilian coup would succeed without guns and things. And the guns were only with the military. So they were assisted by the military. And this is the kind of discrimination that the Indians have faced in Fiji. Whenever you're able to win an election, a democratic election, and get into power through the mandate of the people, you are removed by the military. And I was held hostage with my government, with ministers and other members of parliament, by the military in parliament for 8 weeks, for 2 months, whilst negotiations were taking place to release us. And during this period, there was widespread violence against Indians. State-sponsored violence. The security forces were not doing anything to prevent this kind of atrocities that were committed during this period. And half the city of Suva was burned down. Suva is the capital of Fiji, capital city, where mainly Indian businesses are established and all that. And a number of buildings were razed and all that. So it was a very, very sad and very tragic event in the history of our country. Despite that, we persevered. We have persevered. We have stood firm on democratic principles and to uphold the rights and the citizenship rights of the people of Indian origin. And indeed, as a party, we believe in multiracialism, multiculturalism, and religious freedom, a secular state. It has been a long struggle, but what these coups have done in the last 54 years, or 40 years actually, there was another coup in 2006. So we've had 4 coups since independence. And each time a coup takes place, it sets the country back about 10, 15 years by the time we get back to stability. This तरह से there's a lot of economic damage done to the country. A lot of our people left. They left the country. They wanted a secure life, and so the nation has suffered a lot in terms of loss of skill and investment and all this. We have the same problem today. We are still a developing country. We could have been way ahead, but because of these coups, we are, not. We're still in the lower income. We're still a lower income country. But the battle for justice, democracy, and equality goes on. After a long time, the government has now commissioned a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. The purpose of this Truth and Reconciliation Commission is to unite the nation, to dig deep into the mistakes of the past, what happened, who are responsible, how can that be set right, and to give restorative justice to the victims of those coups. Now, this is just, the bill has just been presented to Parliament on this. We are hoping that this process will lead to unifying the nation and bringing the races together. So that, in a brief way, is the political situation in Fiji. It has been a long struggle. It's still continuing. At one stage, we were 51% of the population. We are reduced today to around 33%. And so that's what it is. If you have any questions on this later on, you can ask me, and I'll be very happy to answer those. But we have not given up the will. We are there. So long as we are there, we will continue to uphold equal citizenry. We'll continue to protect and promote the rights of the minorities, and hopefully we'll receive support through study groups like the Delhi Study Group and other NGOs. The government of India has been very supportive. It has got a very active mission in Fiji, High Commission, India and Fiji, and we are in constant touch with them. Yes, we are getting support from the government, which is also giving assistance to the Fijian government in technical areas and in the field of education and medicine. That is all I have in terms of the political situation in Fiji. I thank you for your patience in listening to me. One other thing I wanted to share with you, which I have talked to Vijay ji, I think two days ago, was, and this thing I've been asking myself for some time when I first came to India. I noticed that your day begins here at about 10. We come from a place where the day begins. So actually, the day begins right in the middle of the earth, just above equator. When the day begins in Fiji, you are 6.5 hours behind us. So I was asking, if we start work at 8, so I was asking Vijay, why is it that in India you start work at 10? Don't you think you are losing productive time? And I looked at other places. In Singapore, they start work at 8. In Malaysia at 8. And I was surprised that in Pakistan also they start work at 8. That's what Google tells me. So I asked him whether this has exercised the minds of the government here, that they need to start the day earlier. I think this is a British tradition left behind by the British, who wanted to have a very late wake up and then go to work about 10 or so and then knock off. In my view, this needs to be looked at, because we talk about productivity. India is advancing fast, and I think this is something which needs to be examined by the government as to whether they need to do something about this so that they catch up with the neighbors who start the day a couple of hours earlier. That's just some thought for you and for Vijay to take up with the government, and then let me know how the discussions are progressing. I thank you so much for your patience. It's been wonderful being here with you all, and I look forward to mingling with you after the